Guys, if David Haye loses to Tony Bellew this Saturday, his career is definitely over. When it comes to fighting for a world title, that is. Because, I've been, looking at these press conferences, and a lot of what Tony Bellew has been saying is true. Tony Bellew said that David Haye cherry-picked him because he thought it was going to be an easy fight. And it ended up backfiring in on him. And that's true. David Haye did cherry-pick Tony Bellew because he perceived Tony Bellew as an easy fight. He thought he was going to go in there, easily beat him, and make a lot of money. He saw it as an easy payday. It ended up backfiring against him. He ended up pulling a muscle. And he ended up losing in embarrassing fashion, right? Although he did show a lot of heart in the end, he lost to a guy he wasn't supposed to lose to. That's the bottom line. Nobody was picking, or at least the majority of boxing. I'm not going to say nobody, because there's probably some Tony Bellew hardcore fans, especially the people in Liverpool. The people in Liverpool probably wanted him to win. But, matter of fact, they definitely wanted him to win because they were going crazy and rooting for him in the press conference last year in Liverpool. So, yeah, they definitely want him to win. But the majority of boxing fans, I remember, I wasn't making videos back then, but I remember seeing the majority of boxing fans, reading the comments in social media, and a lot of people were saying that this was easy work for David Haye. They perceived this fight as an easy fight for David Haye. So it ended up backfiring, and he ended up losing. He wasn't supposed to lose against Tony Bellew. He was not supposed to lose, but he lost. He suffered an injury, and he ended up losing. A lot of fans, after that fight happened, and when Tony Bellew won, a lot of fans say, as a lot of David Haye fans, and a lot of boxing fans in general have been saying, I remember like yesterday, when the fight was over, that the only reason Tony Bellew won was because David Haye, ruptured his Achilles heel, right? He got that injury. In other words, they're saying that if David Haye would have not got that injury, he would have won the fight. Now, I'm not here saying that's true, but I'm also not here saying that isn't true. I personally think that David Haye was a shot fighter, an over-the-hill fighter when he fought Tony Bellew. I have been seeing David Haye my whole life. When I saw all his fights. I've been seeing him for years. I know how David Haye fights. David Haye is kind of like an Energizer Bunny, right? He's a kind of in-and-out fighter. He uses his footwork, right? He uses his foot speed to get in and out. Right, he comes in, he throws these big, he calls them quote-unquote haymakers, and then he comes out. I know the way he fights. But when he fought against Tony Bellew, you didn't see that. You didn't see the quickness. You didn't see the quick reflexes. He looked like he had slowed down. It looked like age. And this was before he suffered the injury. So even before he suffered the injury, he looked like a shadow of what he used to be. Tony Bellew isn't the best fighter technically. Tony Bellew has never impressed me. Like, I've never looked at Tony Bellew and thought to myself, wow, this guy is very talented. When it comes to David Haye, I've been more impressed with David Haye as a professional because I think he's a better talent. So I'm going to tell you straight up, I've been more impressed with him. I think he's more athletic than someone like Tony Bellew. But Tony Bellew, in my opinion, I think he has more left in the tank than someone like David Haye. David Haye's body, in my opinion, is betraying him. I think his body age is catching up to him, and he's starting to receive these injuries. Even before he received it, he broke his arm, or he injured his elbow. He's received so many injuries now. The fact that he has received this really bad injury with his Achilles heel is very concerning for me. If I'm a David Haye fan, that would be very concerning for me. Because David Haye's entire career, he's depended on movement, on using his foot, right? When David Haye fights, look at all David Haye fights. He's always using his footwork. He's moving, right? His mobility is very important to him. When he fought, look at all his fights. When he fought Vladimir Klitschko, when he fought that dude, I forgot his name. Every time he fights, basically, when he was in his prime, he would always use his footwork. So now he's received that injury in his Achilles heel. He's older in age. He's going to slow down naturally. I would be very worried about that if I'm a big David Haye fan, because if he can't depend on his foot speed, if he can't depend on his foot speed for defense to get him out of there, he's going to be a sitting duck. He's going to be a sitting duck for Tony Bellew. And Tony Bellew, although he's not the most talented guy, if you're a sitting duck to him, he will let his punches go, and he will, hurt you.